So the newest weekly quest just revealed a brand new globe model with 7 places pinpointed on the map. Now, we know Titan machinery is all over Azeroth, but we just learned that there is yet another hidden Titan system on Azeroth, the so-called Manifold. It was built by the Keepers to learn more about the World Soul, but very likely there is another hidden purpose. Interesting enough, it isn't connected to all the Titan facilities, but just select few, from Ulduar to likely Baal Modan in the Barrens, the most mysterious Titan facility by far on Azeroth. Furthermore, people have also connected one of the Manifold facilities to be Eldred Talas, the ancient Highborn city, now known as Dire Maul. The most advanced arcane users at the time of the Night Elven Empire built this place, and it's likely they built it over a Titan facility, hence the crazy arcane potency. So what even is the Manifold? What are these new Titan facilities, and what is their purpose? Did you know you can play the War Within directly on your phone with Awesome, this video's sponsor? You can control your desktop from your phone completely free, which is perfect when you don't really want to sit at the computer. Super easy to use, just use my link, download the PC and the phone app, and just connect them. The free version is great, you can control your desktop, but the real deal is the game version with custom keyboards for various games such as WoW, with great FPS and sound. Make sure to use my code DORON to get 7 days completely free so you can try it out only for the first 200 people. They also got a smart lock to turn off your PC at any time, as well as hot sales with up to 40% off on Pro and Game versions. Check out Awesome. So by this point, you might have seen the weekly archive quest. The first one was called First Disc. It was the first time in the game that Azeroth was called the Prime World Soul. It gave us insight into what the Titans really are doing with the World Soul, and this is so far the most concrete hint in the game that Azeroth is not in fact an Ascent Titan. However, the second weekly quest called Archives Seeking History seems to be just as interesting, and we may actually be onto something here. So upon completion, we hear a conversation of one of the Titan Keepers, and he talks about most of the lore we already kind of know from the Chronicle, how the Pantheon arrived to Azeroth, how the Titans sent the Keepers to lead the Titanforge forces into battle against the Old Gods. They rooted out the Old Gods, imprisoned them in the deep places of the world, and then led by Emantul, the Titans set towards studying what the World Soul of Azeroth is. Now, this bit here is completely new lore, and it's almost certainly a setup for the entire World Soul saga. So, to aid the Titans, the Keepers were tasked to create a so-called system known as the Manifold, which was a vast world-spanning complex of machines, forges, and installations. As the Keepers were told, the purpose was apparently to examine the World Soul of Azeroth in depth. After this convo, Brinty and Dagon are talking about what could the Titans possibly study, and they say they cannot understand the intricacies of the Titan reasons. However, Brinty talks about how she knows about this complex, very likely. Now, first of all, I just want to say that almost certainly the Titans were keeping something hidden from the Keepers. It wasn't really just about learning more about the World Soul for curiosity reasons. Almost certainly it's about having some sort of a hidden purpose, because we know they did in fact build a ton of machinery. Some were supposed to create more Titanforge, some were supposed to essentially destroy the entire planet, and some we probably don't even know what they were really about. However, this isn't the reason I'm making this video. There is in fact the biggest hint yet, and it isn't from the conversations or the new dialogue, it's actually from the model they had added to the game that you could very easily miss. So while the Keeper Arcadus is talking about what has been going on, they added a what appears to be an old globe model of Azeroth that could potentially even be as old as Wrath of the Lich King, but they actually tied a bunch of white dots of these facilities on the map. Now, interesting enough, in the community, people have actually managed to extrapolate the actual texture from the quest and compare it to the current map of the world, and it's incredibly interesting what has been discovered. So, a vast complex of Titan machinery is definitely not new lore. I mean, you all know this, we had seen this everywhere. We have been to the Forge of Originations, Ulduar, Uldum, Titan machinery in the Dragon Isles, Titan machinery in Pandaria. Pretty much everyone knows there is a ton of Titan architecture and hidden mechanisms all over the planet, but this specific combination of 7 is really interesting. Now, it wouldn't be too interesting if they just dotted out all the known facilities we had previously seen, but there's about 7 laid out that seem to be a part of this so-called manifold. Remember the old lore, the Titan facilities usually have multiple purposes, the one known to most and a hidden one. For example, Ulduar is like the main seat of the Keepers, the main Titan facility, but it is also the prison of Yogg-Saron. The Forge of Origination in Uldum was supposed to regulate the world soul and the earth, but it is also one giant destruction machinery. So it's very likely that these 7 facilities, a part of the so-called manifold, have a hidden purpose we're yet to discover, and it is going to be incredibly interesting. So let's dig right into the map and let's examine what exactly they're hinting at here. So Northrend obviously has Ulduar, which is at the top. It is at the seat of the Titan Keepers. It is where most of the work is done. Even the original Prime Designate Odin used to be here, but he eventually rebelled and took his portion of Ulduar into the air. So this dot is the most obvious one. The second one seems to be the Virma's Temple, which you may know as the seat of the dragon aspects, but what a lot of people don't know is that this is actually a Titan structure. The Titan structure built for the dragon aspects as their newly raised servants. However, interesting enough as a giant tower, it might have some hidden purpose we are soon to discover. Now, the third dot is a bit harder to figure out, but it is very likely the Wintergrass Fortress, which is essentially built to protect the Vault of Arcavan, containing relics of untold power and protected by ancient giants. By the way, we recently learned in exploring Azeroth Northrend that one of the Titan giant protectors has somehow gone missing and no one has seen him ever since. Overall though, Northrend isn't that big of a deal. On the other side we got the Eastern Kingdoms, and almost certainly this is Uldaman, and I also don't think this is that big of a deal. I just want to state that I think this manifold they're building up is a setup for the World Soul Saga. Did you notice they only dotted the 3 continents that are going to be relevant for each expansion of the saga? I think that's a setup for us to explore the manifold ultimately when we go to Northrend in the Last Titan. Like, this is where the real machinery comes in. However, let's now go to Kalimdor, and here is where it gets really good and interesting. So let's get the easiest one out of the way. Obviously, Uldum and Forge of Originations. We've seen this place, we've been here, we know that it has 2 purposes. One was regulating the rhythms and fortifying the world soul. The other was eradicating all life if the old god corruption got bad enough. However, based on this new info, there might be a third purpose that we are soon going to discover. Now, the other 2 get a little bit tricky to pinpoint. One is very likely around the Barrens, and I feel like this is almost certainly Baal Modan, which has been one of the biggest mysteries of World of Warcraft since Classic. It's obviously a Titan facility that the dwarves have been digging out, and some have even gone insane doing so, but we have never figured out what exactly this place really is and why the dwarves are digging here. It obviously fell into this repair, but I feel like this place is actually going to have some sort of a purpose we are going to discover soon, and it's going to be incredibly interesting how it ties to the rest of the places of the manifold. The last one though, in my opinion, is the most interesting one. Just to say, the map is very lackluster, it's very minimalistic, it's hard to pinpoint exactly, especially as the sundering happens, so places kind of move, but most have figured out that this is actually Darmol, and it is in fact a place known as Eldre Talas. Now, you might know Darmol as a ruin and this ancient forgotten place, but you know that Eldre Talas was one of the main cities of the Night Elven Empire when it was at its peak, led by the Queen Ashara, who is also going to be returning soon. It was the home to powerful arcanists, and when the sundering happened, it just fell into ruin, and to this day, it is just known as Dire Maul. Now check this out, do you know what is the magic of the Titans and the Beings of Order? Arcane. Why would the most powerful and advanced arcane users of the world at the time build a city right over this place? It's very likely that this was a Titan facility that had something to do with arcane magic. Remember, Ashara built the center of her civilization around the Well of Eternity. This is where Y'Shaarj was pulled down from. It is the wound of the world's soul. Now, we know that Azeroth is not actually arcane but elemental in nature, and we know the Titans mended this wound, so it's very likely they are the ones that actually pumped it up with arcane magic. Now, what exactly could be going on with Eldre Talas, and what is the Titan facility hidden below? Well, check this out. The Exploring Azeroth book about Kalimdor literally tells us that unknown powers are at work here and that it is much more than just a forgotten highborn city, so it's highly likely that this was built on top of the ancient Titan facility as a part of the original manifold, a mechanism the Keepers built for the Titans themselves to do something with the World Soul. It's very likely that this place might have contained some arcane magic or something to do with the prime World Soul of Azeroth. But now that we figured out, or likely figured out, what these 7 places could be, what exactly even is the manifold? And that in itself is a great question. So the manifold itself, like the word, means like a set of pipes usually branching into one. This makes sense. We got these 7 facilities spread out, they're all branching into the World Soul of Azeroth, or it's all coming from the World Soul of Azeroth. I somehow feel like this manifold may be related to the prison mechanism or something of the sort, and it's not just curiosity reasons that the Titans ordered all this complex machinery to be built. Even more interestingly, as we know most of these facilities and they have 1 or 2 hidden purposes already, they might have an entirely hidden this reason even from the Titan Keepers themselves, which could be that vast Titan conspiracy that they talked about on BlizzCon. Additionally, just how they had a last resort mechanism to completely blow up the planet with Algalon the Observer, this manifold might be a mechanism they're going to activate when they get back to Azeroth, like a failsafe. They left because they know they will be returning soon and they're confirmed to return in The Last Titan. Overall though, while seemingly just a tiny quest, these archives seem to be really revealing some crazy lore. Thank you for watching. Check out my video on the new artwork showing a door into the Crystal Beledar by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on Perron and Slavic mythology by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!